Daddy's Money, Chapter 6. The train rides back in time. No amount of talking could convince Eleanor to let him take the company jet to New Orleans. He had planned everything down to the minute, all the while taking several hours off the entire dreaded trip. He would rent a car at the airport and drive the remainder of the way. Eleanor stood her ground, though. The train ride was not the issue at hand, but whether getting the point across to the young man who was in charge. The long journey was planned in such a way to give the young man time to relax and gather ideas from each passing farm along the way. Eleanor knew this would be her hardest case to date, definitely surpassing the McQuire twins, and she believed even worse than Tiffany Delaney, the Texas socialite who suffered paralysis in an auto accident shortly after being crowned homecoming queen. If everything worked out, the young man would have many ideas for his farmland, whether he knew it or not. The train pulled into the Hattiesburg depot shortly before midnight. Henry Pope, a farmer, was sitting on the small wooden bench located outside the ticket office. He was whittling on a piece of wood. Eleanor insisted he would have no trouble spotting the young man, and once again she had proven to be right. Henry and his wife Esther had known Eleanor Sims for many years and had personally seen with their own eyes the miracles she worked on children. The tinted, spiked hair was a dead giveaway, not to mention his clothes. Henry nearly choked about on the Coca-Cola he had been sipping when the city slicker exited the train. "Oh yeah, he's going to fit right in," Henry said to himself and giggled a little. As predicted, the new farmer-to-be was tired and, to Henry's surprise, intoxicated. But the young man would have nothing to do with delaying the trip until morning. "Son, Eleanor has rooms reserved for us here in town for tonight." Henry tried again. "No way am I adding another day to this nightmare. But the farm doesn't even have power or water turned on yet." He was trying again to convince the young man it would be best to spend the night in town. "Don't need any lights to sleep," he argued. "Suit yourself, son. It'll take us a couple of hours to get there. You lead, I'll follow," John Marcus said as he tried desperately to walk a straight line but couldn't. "Well, all righty then," Henry added as he tossed the empty Coke bottle into the trash can and began to walk to his truck. When morning came, it was hard to tell who was more scared, the rooster resting on the headboard crowing above his head, or the frightened young man surrounded by the biggest cats known to humanity. His screaming alerted everyone that the Sleeping Beauty was awake. He fell through the opening that once housed the door. Although words were coming out, they were hard to understand. "Cats!" "Yeah, Esther put them in there to get rid of the rats. Those things must weigh 20 pounds each by now." "Rats!" he yelled. "I told you the place wasn't ready to live in yet." No. You said it didn't have water," he exclaimed, angry to be the butt of Henry's laughing. "Son, you got a little something right there," Henry pointed to the forehead. "What the?" He was dumbfounded at the brownish liquid that was now also on his finger. And upon further inspection, it was all over him too. "I believe that would be chicken poop," Eleanor seemed tickled to report. In fact, the entire night's sleep had been in the room the chickens viewed as their own. Once he noticed he was covered head to toe with their droppings, he stripped down to his fancy underbriefs. "I need a shower and coffee," he yelled, pacing back and forth, trying to locate anything that looked like water. Eleanor came to the rescue. It would be the first of many, many times to come. She pointed down to the road, to the recreational vehicle sitting under the oak trees. "Oh, thank God." he said as he made his fast trip down the gravel road. Well, as fast as a man with tender feet could make. 2 steps and then a few choice words, paused, and then 2 steps and another round of words. "Oh yeah, this is going to be fun," Henry exclaimed. The droppings would soon prove to be the lesser of problems associated with sleeping with chickens. Henry drove them both to town with Eleanor up front and John Marcus riding solo outside in the bed of the truck. The doctor's office was not busy, and they would be able to see him as soon as they arrived. Henry began to giggle. Henry stopped laughing at the boy this instant. "The poor child has just about scratched his skin off," she protested, but all the while admitting it was funny. "Yeah, but I've never seen chicken mites react so badly to someone." The country doctor was well loved by everyone in town. If you were born after 1980, chances were he helped bring you into this world. His office looked more like a country home than a medical facility. Mrs. Evie Rogers greeted the poor soul at the front door. "Come on back, honey, and don't be touching anything. There's a paper gown on the table," she instructed. There was one thing for sure about Evie Rogers, and that was she ran a tight ship. There was no wasted time in her world, and cleanliness was next to godliness. "Let me get a chart started on you, son. Name, John Smith." Changing his last name was Eleanor's suggestion. "Birthday, June 15th, 1982. That was another lie. "Address, I believe it's called Hale." "Don't be smart with me, young man." "Can you stop this itching?" he demanded. "First things first. Address." "Don't know it." "What do you mean you don't know it? Are you special, honey?" He had no idea what she was asking. "Are you handicapped?" "I am itching. Make it stop." "How come you don't know your address?" "I need an address before we can go any further." She was a stickler for the rules. He bolted from the table, pushed open the waiting room door, and marched over to Eleanor. "Where do I live?" she stated, pausing between each word, revealing his true frustrations. Eleanor jotted down the new address. As he turned, headed back toward the door, he became increasingly aware that the backside of his gown was revealing more than needed to be seen. It was at that time he noticed the brown-haired beauty sitting at the receptionist's desk. Soon the doctor came in. Somewhere between the shot and the cream, the itching became bearable. Evie decided his clothing needed discarded and gave him another paper gown to drape across his backside for the trip home. "That's some scar you got there, young man," Evie commented on the inch-long scar located on his lower back as she helped tie the gown together. John Marcus would have no part in the idle chit-chat so common to people from the South. In fact, as soon as Evie tied the gown around his neck, he left without saying a word. Evie watched the young man walk down the hallway leading to the waiting room. She remained in deep thought until interrupted by the doctor. "What are you looking at?" The doctor stared down the hall. "Do you know who that was?" she asked. He looked down at the chart and said, "Yeah, John Smith. Why?" "I think that's our John," Evie stated. "Like it was our John you thought you saw in Memphis and then again when we went to Florida? How about when you nearly got me arrested for following that kid at the Yellowstone Park 5 years ago?" "Let it go, Evie. Let it go." She knew the doctor was right. She had been wrong so many times when it came to John, their long-lost John. But he had the scar. She defended her intuitions. "Every kid that comes in this place has scars, Evie. I don't want to hear anything else about it." Evie's mind wandered back to the last day she saw her nephew. It was a typical Saturday for a working mother of 3. Her youngest child was laying on a quilt, watching her hang the last of the day's laundry on the clothesline. Her oldest 2 and her nephew were playing within earshot when the children began to cry. The 2-year-old had been hurt. A rusty nail had pierced his lower back, and Evie couldn't get it to stop bleeding. Even though Evie's father drove as fast as possible, the child was losing blood, and soon it would be serious if they didn't get to the hospital. The ringing phone brought her back to the present, and soon the thoughts of John vanished. Hope you enjoyed. There's a link to this book in the description.